Hello, hello, ciao, and bonjour. Today, we're reacting to Pokemon Y Hardcore Nuzlocke, mono but type only. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Mr. Wolfer. And I'm just reacting to content. I will leave this video description below. And now, monotype is a good type and to do just one type to face against many different harder type like bug type, which is only weakness is flying. I believe ice fighting too. No, I'm not quite sure much about types, advantage and disadvantage. Uh, let's see what this Flygon HG make this video today.
Think of a bug, what do you see? A dirty, creepy crawler slithering on the floor? A blood-sucking pest? An ugly, buzzing nuisance that you want to squash, zap, swat, spray, smush, mash, exterminate? Bugs get a bad rap, but this is Lucy, and she wants to change your mind. During our journey through Kalos, Lucy and I will fight to prove to you that bugs are more than meets the eye, that they can be fierce, powerful, cuddly, cute, cunning, clever, resourceful, and above all, worthy of the one thing that links every creature on this beautiful earth together, being alive. This is Tusi, and she wants to change your mind. During our journey through Kalos, Tusi and I will fight to prove to you that bugs are more than meets the eye. That they can be fierce, powerful, cuddly, cute, cunning, clever, resourceful, repetitive, and above all, worthy of that one thing that links every creature on this beautiful earth together, being alive. In order to become champions of the Kalos League and prove our worth, Tusi and I will need all the help we can get. In Santaloon Forest, Jude the Caterpie joins the team, and on Route 3, Strawberry the Burmy grants us a third teammate before the fight against the very first gym leader. However, on top of these standard hardcore Nuzlocke rules, Collision playthroughs come with an additional challenge dubbed the Anime Rule, which requires that I match the team size of my opponents for all gym and Elite Four matches. So Strawberry's on the sidelines as Jude and Tusi, now fully evolved beautiful butterflies, face off against Viola, who also happens to have a rare respect for bugs. Tusi can take out our foe's lead Surskit with a few Strugel Boojles, but Viola's Vivian is gonna be quite the challenge. With Infestation, she can prevent switches and do passive damage on each turn. My only hope is that Jude's able to do enough damage with Confusion and Poison Powder to take the KO before it's too late. As we trade off attacks, slowly whittling away at each other, it's not lost on me that this type of violence is the exact thing that Tusi and I are hoping to stop. The senseless devastation of insect life. And it's a cruel irony that in order to reach our goal, the very first thing we have to do is become a part of the problem. Perhaps there's a lesson to be learned here, but regardless, as Vivian falls, pain apparent in her once bright eyes, I pray that here the ends justify the means.
Oh, we got a sponsor.
I know that this video is all about appreciating bugs, but there's one type of bug that I just can't stand. Coding bugs. And the best way to avoid them is with quality programming, which is easier to learn than ever before thanks to the sponsor of this video, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is a coding platform that uses modern game design and hands-on lessons to teach you how to become a programming master. With their detailed courses on Python, Go, and JavaScript, to name a few, you can learn back-end web development from start to finish. Now, I actually have quite a bit of experience with both coding and online course development. During my PhD, I wrote codes to research laryngeal function, and I actually designed online review courses that my alma mater still uses to this day. So believe me when I say that boot.dev is one of the coolest teaching platforms I've ever seen. The lessons are clever and sometimes even funny while still being understandable. And the videos are more than just someone reading from a script in a monotone voice, and they actually feel worth your time by providing interesting visuals to compound your learning. Boot.dev knows that the smartest way to learn how to code, or to learn how to do anything for that matter, is to make sure you're never bored. And with silly little quests to achieve and items to collect, their platform delivers that in spades. All the while not compromising on delivering actually intelligible information and applying it to writing real code and designing real projects. If you're not convinced by my full endorsement, all of Boot.dev's content is free to read and watch in guest mode, and you can even demo the interactive features. So I absolutely encourage you to head to boot.dev and try it out yourself. Then, if you like what you see, you can use my code FLAGONHG to get 25% off your entire first year by choosing the annual plan. Thanks so much to boot.dev for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. The long trek to the second gym in Silage City is ripe with potential encounters. Rocky the bubbly lady boss, Sergeant Pepper the voracious venipede, Walrus the hopelessly romantic Volbeat, Penny the kind-hearted Dwebble, and Blackbird the Yanma, sole survivor of a ruthless genocide. Live, my son. Not just for yourself, but for all the Yan men and Yan women that died so that you may survive. That is your purpose. That is your destiny. All join the team, though sadly, none of them have a good matchup into Grant's two fossilized rock types. Instead, our savior is Strawberry. A little lesson in entomology here. Female Burmy, like Strawberry, can evolve into 3 versions of Wormadam, each with a different typing. Which one Strawberry becomes depends on the form that she has when evolving, which is based on the environment that she's in. Since Trash Cloak Wormadam with a steel typing is far and away the best form she can take, Strawberry needs to evolve indoors, so we have to visit the Battle Chateau, a place that I haven't thought about since Pokemon X and Y came out, wait, 12 years ago? Old. Your hairline is terrible. You're closer to 40 than 20. Old. The other teammate joining Strawberry in the fight against Grant is Sergeant Pepper, who's recently evolved into Whirlipede and thus has a respectable amount of bulk. With 2 quad-effective rock smashes, the army man can get the KO on Amara, though now that he's paralyzed and taken some damage, the fight against Tyrant is gonna be all up to Strawberry. And while she doesn't yet know a steel-type move, she does know Hidden Power, which with a stroke of luck happens to be Ice type. The result is that Strawberry appears able to just barely get the 2-shot as Tyrant spams Bite. But with an unexpected flinch, we're suddenly in a lot of trouble. Any RNG on the following turn and we're looking at the end of the line. Tyrant goes for another Bite, Strawberry survives with 5 HP, and she successfully connects with another Hidden Power, granting us a narrow victory over Grant. With the new level cap, Sergeant Pepper evolves into Scolipede, seemingly the only Unnovan Pokemon not to be cursed by an absurdly high evolution level. Suck it, Rufflet. I can also catch Submarine, the lovable Heracross, to give my team even more immediate power. But before taking on the 3rd gym leader, we need to prove ourselves in the Tower of Mastery by facing off against Serena and her Braixen. Unfortunately, bugs have a crippling weakness to fire, something they share with plants, people, incriminating documents, and marshmallows. So this, and all fights featuring a fire type, are gonna be pretty tough. Good thing there aren't a lot of those in Kalos. Serena leads with her Meowstic, who 2C can easily kill with a few Strujoboojals. Absol actually comes in before Braixen, so by using Draining Kiss to stay healthy, my sweet starter takes her 2nd KO after just a few turns. With Braixen out and threatening to lock us in via Fire Spin, I bring in Penny, who tanks a Psybeam on the switch, though not as well as I would have liked since she's holding an Eviolite. Simple-minded Penny also gets confused, so I decide to switch to Jude on a 2nd Psybeam. Since we outspeed, I hit our foe with a Sleep Powder, hopefully granting a safe switch back to Penny, but Serena's Bipedal Vixen gets an immediate wake-up to nail Penny with a massive fire spin. In fact, with the residual damage, Penny's down to just 21 HP. Not even enough to survive the single Psybeam that kills our best answer to fire types in her debut battle. So much promise snuffed out in an instant. The beautiful life that Penny could have had is gone. I bring in Sergeant Pepper, and with a poison jab, he can almost get the one-shot on Penny's killer. Since a Psybeam doesn't threaten a KO in return, one last poison jab is all that's needed to win us the battle. So after a tiny-sized funeral, our journey reluctantly continues. The good news is that the matchup against Karina is a joke, since bugs resist fighting types. You ever tried to punch a bug? Plus, her Halucha doesn't even have a flying type move. 2C gives me Mienfu the Kiss of Death, Submarine uses Aerial Ace to slice through Machoke like a perfectly cooked fish fillet, and Sergeant Pepper once again closes things out against the duck with a few powerful poison jabs. This next stretch of the journey is equally as easy, with a few potential exceptions. Serena wants a rematch before I can fight the next gym leader, and though her team is literally no different except for a minor boost in levels, Blackbird has now evolved into Yan Mega, who can take out Breakson with a few ancient powers, having to only take a single fire spin in the process. Since Ramos uses grass types, that guy is what we professionally refer to as unbelievably fat. Strawberry kills Jumpluff with a hidden power ice, Blackbird sweeps Go-Goat and Weepinbell with a few Strugel Boojles, and Sergeant Pepper is just along for the ride. Next is the infamous Route 13 Team Flare Grunt.
Who?
Okay, well, he's infamous to me. The duo of Houndoom and Golbat are about the worst combination of two Pokemon you could imagine for a team of bug types. But I figured that Blackbird would be able to handle Houndoom, and Strawberry would be able to deal with the Golbat. What happens instead, though, is that Blackbird rips an Ancient Power into Houndoom, and immediately gets an Omni Boost, allowing him to finish off the Hellhound, and then one-shot Golbat. There is another Acrobatics Golbat at the Kalos Power Plant, so against her, Strawberry does get a chance to prove her mettle, and does so successfully, in part due to the Team Flare Grunt's random AI. Nevertheless, we've made it to Lumio City in one piece, our team of bugs getting stronger and stronger. Against Clement, I bring a team of 3, led by Sergeant Pepper, who's bulky enough to tank an Aerial Ace from Emolja while getting the KO with a Rock Tomb and Poison Jab combo. Magneton is scary. Thunderbolts do a lot of damage to Strawberry, whose only job is to break our foe sturdy with a Bug Bite, which she does thanks to dodging a pair of critical hits. Submarine's able to tank a hit much better, though a paralysis there would have been devastating. So it's a small miracle that we made it out of this one, as Submarine can now take the KO with a Brick Break, eat one last Thunderbolt from Clement's final Pokemon Heliolisk, and then knock him out with a single close combat for badge number 5. Now, the fight against Serena on Route 14 almost always causes a death. It's my personal kryptonite, especially when my rival has her plus speed Delphox. But this time, I came prepared. By putting Meowstic to sleep with Jude, I can freely set up a Rain Dance and switch to Blackbird. Since the kitten stays asleep, this lets Blackbird take the KO at full HP, while also getting a speed boost to ensure that he'll move before Serena's Delphox. Our Ancient Power isn't enough for the kill, but with the Rain protecting us from Fire-type moves, all our foe can do is rip a single Psybeam before a second Ancient Power gets the KO. A single Strugel Boojle kills Absol, so once again, Blackbird's netted us a deathless victory over Serena. The next gym leader is Valerie, whose fairy types do resist our bug type attacks, but Strawberry and Sergeant Pepper once again make this matchup trivial. Submarine's here to make quick work of Valerie's lead Mawile, who only knows dark type attacking moves, though after that, Strawberry takes out Mr. Mime with a few mirror shots, and Sergeant Pepper eviscerates Sylveon with a single poison jab. So, guess what's next? Did you guess another fight against Serena? Yeah, the mid-game is basically just the same rival fight over and over again, interrupted by mediocre gym leaders. And now that we have a relatively reliable strategy, even the rival fights are pretty unremarkable. Oh, and not that it matters, but I do catch Obladi the Skorupi here, who can't evolve since he'll cease to be a bug type. Anyways, we're
Yeah.
finally firing
Right
on
beyond
all
become
cylinders. The
poison
dream of a
dark.
world where
Right.
bugs are respected, adored, and celebrated is within reach. It's a euphoric high, the best of times. And with the penultimate Kalos gym leader Olympia wielding psychic types, I had little doubt that this would be another easy matchup for my team of soon-to-be champions. Olympia does lead with a part flying type Sigilif, her Slowking knows Power Gem, and her Meowstic can set up with Calm Mind, but even so, it all seems pretty simple. Strawberry is my answer to Sigilif, since she only takes neutral damage from Air Slash and can threaten with super effective damage via Thief. We don't do much damage, especially thanks to Sigilif's Reflect, but with leftovers and Protect keeping us healthy, we also don't take much damage either, though thanks to a Hyper Potion, by the time Sigilif finally falls and Slowking comes out next, Strawberry isn't exactly in the best shape. She's certainly lower than I was expecting. A Protect helps us get back a little more HP, and then we outspeed to rip a massive Bug Bite as Slowking goes for a Yawn. I switched to Submarine on a second Yawn, since the AI doesn't know better than to yawn multiple times in a row. I was hoping that this quirk would help me get back some HP on Strawberry for a few turns, but as she comes back in, Slowking instead opts for a Psychic, which connects for a nasty critical hit. I can again get some HP back by protecting for a turn, though after our second Bug Bite gets the KO on Slowking, Strawberry is still at just 31 HP as Meowstic comes in last. I go for a Protect, anticipating the turn 1 Fake Out, but Meowstic uses Calm Mind. I'm absolutely stunned, and by letting her get that +1 boost to her special attack for free, I very well might have just thrown the match. I decide to bring in Volbeat, whose moveset of Strugel Boojel and Moonlight is meant to hard counter Meowstic. But instead of attacking, Olympia opts for a second Calm Mind. And that's the nail in the coffin. Had I simply attacked with Bug Bite on those two turns, it very well could have been enough to get the kill. At +2 special attack, though, Meowstic is unstoppable. Psychic one-shots Walrus, Shadow Ball silences Strawberry, and a second Psychic kills Submarine, unexpectedly and embarrassingly ending my run. Humbled and crashing back down to Earth, my wings burned from flying too close to the sun. The only two options I had were to give up or start over. And as hard as it is to find the strength to do it all over again, I owe it to 2C and to all the bugs worldwide to try. With better plays from yours truly, I know that these bugs can rise to greatness and become champions. So back to square one it is. It takes a few tries to get a potential run going, be it failing the early game grind with Lucy's most recent reincarnation, encountering a Weedle instead of a Caterpie in Santaloon Forest, or being stuck with a male Burmy. Disgusting. But we finally get a live one on attempt 7, where I also wind up catching Maggie May the Illumise instead of Walrus the Volbeat. This time against Grant, Strawberry the Wormadame does not have access to Hidden Power Ice, so in order to skate through this fight, I just make sure to edge her to the level cap of 25, such that she can grow to level 26 and learn Mirror Shot after Amara goes down. With that, she's got more than enough to best Tyrant. A7 then continues to show remarkable promise as we once again face off against Serena for the first time. After Lucy makes quick work of Meowstic, instead of letting her take the KO against Absol, I switch to Maggie May, who can use Encore to lock Absol into a quick attack, thereby letting Submarine the Dwebble come in and take minor damage before finally taking the KO with a Bug Bite. This ensures that he no longer needs to switch in on a nasty attack from Breaksin, allowing for a much safer matchup as a single Rock Slide is enough to cleanly get the KO and save Submarine's life. This in turn makes the rest of the mid-game significantly easier, as Submarine the Crustal, especially with Shell Armor, gives us a much better answer into the remaining Serena fights, as well as the various flying types we're forced to face. There's a couple close calls, but it isn't long until we've almost made it back to where we were. The team was even stronger than it was before, and we were once again on top of the world. In Annister City, the fight against Serena, as usual, was easy enough. We always started with Lucy, whose shield dust allowed her to avoid the flinch from Fake Out and nail Meowstic with a Strugel Boojel to reduce her special attack. Lucy's job was to neuter Meowstic so that we could safely bring in Submarine, and she was excellent at her job. Des fromages, mademoiselle, et vous. Fromage, omelette, des boubous, oui soufflé. Baguette, croissant. C'est fou, Marmadou, Isebou, Zivavou, Adieu, Amour, Mademoiselle, Mr. Mime. With the tragically free switch, Submarine can now take care of both Meowstic and Delphox. Walrus, the Heracross, deletes Jolteon and Absol, so now we've arrived back at the fight against Olympia, though it comes with a brutally fresh reminder of how fragile our lives are and how quickly it can all come crashing down. My strategy against Olympia has been tweaked, now using Submarine to quickly take out Sigilif with 2 Rock Tombs. Wanting to stall out a turn of Reflect against Slowking, I use Protect, only for her to immediately go for a Calm Mind. I had committed the cardinal sin of Nuzlocking, making the same exact mistake twice. Albert Einstein once said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Except that he didn't actually say that, it's a misattribution. This has been Fact Checking with Flygon HG, debunking misinformation one tangent at a time. Regardless of who or whom said it, the insanity quote is pretty damning, and I fear that I'm quickly barreling towards another wipe, especially since Strawberry switches in on a nasty critical hit power gem. After some leftovers recovery, I foolishly go for another Protect, but this time Slowking does just go for a power gem, so suck it, Al. Now that Sigilif's Reflect is finally worn off, I rip a Bug Bite that sadly does just under 50% as Slowking switches to spamming Yawn. I then decide to hit a Strugel Boojel, which frustratingly lands a critical hit to drop Slowking into the red, something that I was hoping to avoid as it means that Olympia will heal on the following turn. My only play then is to switch to Submarine and hope that an X-Scissor is enough to get a one-shot on Slowking from full HP, which it thankfully is. So last is Meowstic. After doing a tiny bit of chip with Fake Out, the Killer Kitty rips a Psychic that leaves Submarine in the red before another X-Scissor nets us another clean KO for a deathless victory against Olympia. I cannot stress how important it is that Submarine is crit proof. Attempt 7 is officially our furthest run, though we are far from being in the clear yet good. Lysander has announced the end of the world, meaning that we now need to stop him via 3 nearly consecutive battles. In all 3 of them, he has a Pyroar with Fire Blast that can very easily sweep my entire team if I'm not properly prepared. He's also got a Mienfoo/Xiao with Acrobatics, a Murr/Honchkrow with Aerial Ace, and a Gyarados that I have no easy way to KO since none of my Pokemon can learn Electric-type moves. Okay, actually, I do think that Maggie May can learn an Electric-type move, but, like, yeah. Each of these 3 fights is going to require some pretty serious risks. The first matchup is naturally the least threatening, since a few of Lysander's Pokemon are still unevolved, and because his Pyroar has the ability Rivalry, which nerfs his attack and special attack stats when facing off against female Pokemon. The result is that Sergeant Pepper not only outspeeds Pyroar, but can also actually survive a single Fire Blast, though she doesn't even need to since Pyroar just misses. I'd have preferred that to happen in a later fight, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess. Sergeant Pepper can also one-shot Murkrow, so for Gyarados, some damage with Poison Jab, and a switch to Blackbird for the finishing blow ensures a swift victory. The second Lysander matchup is significantly harder though, since his team is now fully evolved, and his Pyroar has the ability Unnerve instead of Rivalry, thereby removing the nerf against female Pokemon, while also preventing the use of something like an Occa Berry, not that it actually matters since this team doesn't have a way to get them. With a sizable level advantage, Sergeant Pepper is still able to outspeed and one-shot Mienshao with a Poison Jab. She's super dead to a Fire Blast, so the goal here is to first stall out a Power Point with Protect, and then rip a Strugel Boojel to lower the Lion King's special attack. This will let us just barely survive, barring no critical hit, which we graciously avoid. Another Protect stalls out the third of 5 power points, and then a switch to Submarine on a lucky dodge locks things up. After another Protect, Pyroar is forced into using Dark Pulse before a single Rock Slide gets the KO. Gyarados is definitely scary, especially thanks to a critical hit Aqua Tail against Blackbird on the switch, but by setting up Sunny Day, we can survive another, switch to Strawberry on the resisted Outrage, and then slowly take the kill with Infestation. Honchkrow also eventually succumbs to Infestation Stall, so just like that, we've made it to the third and final matchup. Lysander's now cosplaying as Gizmo and can Mega Evolve his Gyarados, but first, I need to deal with his Mienshao and Pyroar for the final time. Once again, our strategy is to first kill Mienshao with a poison bar boosted poison jab, and then rip a Strugel Boojel before hopefully dodging one last critical hit Fire Blast. With that, Sergeant Pepper lives. I switched to Submarine, fortunately on a Dark Pulse, and though a Fire Blast does connect on the following turn, since it only does neutral damage, we're perfectly safe to rip a Rock Slide and put Pyroar in his place for the final time. Despite having Steel Wing, Haunchcrow can't threaten a KO on my bulky boy, so all it takes is a single Rock Tomb to bring Lysander down to his Gyarados. Sadly though, the sheer power of his Mega Form means that I need to make a sacrifice here. No one's strong enough to take 2 hits from the cranky shrimp, so Obla D comes in for the first and final time, laying down his little life to advance the cause. RIP buddy, let Lucy know that we're doing our best to keep her dream alive. I decide to bring in Maggie May next, since she can use Charm, Moonlight, and Wish to completely neuter Lysander's Gyarados. This obviously does risk some critical hits, but don't make me say it out loud. The irony is that after getting Gyarados down to -6 attack, I decide to rip a super effective Bug Buzz that does way more damage than I was expecting. In fact, it's a clean 2-hit KO, meaning that the optimal play was to simply go for the kill right away. No harm, no foul though, because with a second Bug Buzz, Maggie May claims her first kill, saving the entire world in the process. Good job, Maggie May. Good job. Now that the world-ending weapon's been destroyed, I can head towards the 8th gym in Snowbell City, where along the way, we get a few new encounters for the first time since Obla D. RIP, buddy. I snag Rocky the Quiet Durant from Route 18, Penny the Gentle Shuckle from Terminus Cave, and finally the duo of Twist and Shout from Routes 14 and 19. Only Rocky joins the team for the back-to-back fights against my 3 best friends in the whole wide world. Submarine kills Shauna's Delcatty, Walrus close Clizzies her Goodra, and Blackbird bug buzzes her Greninja. Against 2B, Submarine Lannister's Talonflame, Blackbird bug buzzes Crawdaunt, and Sergeant Pepper poison jabs Roserade. And then finally, against Trimp, Submarine X-Scissors Raichu before Rocky ironheads both Aerodactyl and Florges. I guess the real bugs were the friends we made along the way. What? Despite having no Pokemon that can learn Flamethrower, Wolfric remains very simple. Walrus gives Abomasnow the ba-ba-ba-ba-ba treatment, Rocky shatters Cryogonal with an Iron Head, and finally Strawberry takes the KO on Avalugg with just a few mirror shots. With all 8 gym badges, it's time to make our way to the Pokemon League. There's a few fights along the way that prove to be a skosh tricky. Like, sure, this one Kingdra comes dangerously close to killing my teammates on 3 separate occasions, but when it's all said and done, you can walk instead of run, cause no matter what, you'll never be alone. And also, we make it through Victory Road without any deaths. I go back to the Rain Dance strategy to beat Serena's Delphox, by the way. So here's my final team of 6 bugs that will help me make Sweet Lucy's dream a reality, each ready to sacrifice their own future for the greater good. As we enter the Pokemon League, I feel the warmth of Lucy's presence. I know she's up in the sky with diamonds, looking down and cheering us on to victory. So without any further ado, let's do this. Our first matchup is against the Steel-type trainer Wickstrom, and since he only uses 4 Pokemon, I have to choose 2 of my teammates to sit this one out. It shouldn't be much of an issue since both Submarine and Penny are weak to Steel-type moves anyways. Against Klefki, Walrus can net a quick kill with a high-roll Earthquake. This brings in Scizor second, so I stay in to first hit a Brick Break, tanking a fairly strong Iron Head as a result, before then taking a second KO with a close combat. This proves to be somewhat of a mistake since Probopass comes in third and threatens with Power Gem. I thought that Rocky would be bulky enough to tank a hit or 2, but he's not at all. I mean, even without critical hits, 2 Power Gems are enough to get the KO. In hindsight, I should have saved Walrus for Probopass and used Rocky to deal with Scizor. Instead, I now need to make an insanely risky play. Switch back to Walrus and hope that he's bulky enough to tank 2 hits. I say 2 because Probopass has the ability Sturdy, meaning that our Earthquake doesn't get the KO. But with a little luck, Walrus survives a Flash Cannon with 10 HP. That was extremely stupid. After Probopass falls, Wickstrom still has his Aegislash, but with Sergeant Pepper at full HP, she can come in on a Shadow Claw and then take the kill with a single Earthquake. So next up is Seabold and his water types. Once again, Submarine and Penny are sitting on the bench. Against Seabold's lead Clawitzer, I send out Blackbird, who can use Sunny Day to reduce the power of the Shrimp's Water Pulse. It also means that we can rip a one-turn Solar Beam for a clean KO into both Clawitzer and the Barbaracle that comes in next. Third, though, is Gyarados, which is always a little scary thanks to Dragon Dance. I switch to Rocky as Seabold does indeed take the opportunity to set up, though with the sun still burning bright, his best bet is an Earthquake that still doesn't threaten with a KO at +1 attack, letting Rocky hit him with a Thunder Wave to guarantee the speed advantage. From here, I switch to Walrus, and Gyarados goes for Dragon Dance number 2. Terrifying for sure, but Rock Tomb is a 2-shot, and since Gyarados doesn't even attempt to go for any damage, instead greedily using a 3rd Dragon Dance, we can get the kill at full HP. Last is Starmie, so I have Walrus stay in on what ends up being a pretty nasty Psychic. 2 measly hits from Bullet Seed mean that I need to switch to Rocky, who does survive and simultaneously baits Surf for a safe switch to Sergeant Pepper. And since she outspeeds, a single X-Scissor seals the Starfish's fate. These next 2 fights have the potential to be trickier. Drasna is certainly the less tricky of the 2, since the only real threat she has is her Noivern with Air Slash and Flamethrower, though here's where Penny gets to finally make her debut. First though, Walrus rips a nasty Earthquake into Dragalge for a quick KO. But then Penny comes in on Noivern's Air Slash. Without a way to hit her for super effective damage, Penny is virtually indestructible. The combination of Leftovers and Protect makes things hard enough, but the real kicker is that Penny can use the move Power Split to average her pitiful attack stats with Noivern's halfway decent ones, the result being that Noivern now does way less damage with her attacks, and Penny can actually do relatively respectable damage with super effective Rock Tombs. Eventually, I decide to switch to Submarine, who can then take the KO and be in the perfect situation to deal with Altaria. She does use Cotton Guard to radically increase her defenses, but thanks to a lucky flinch from our first Rock Slide, we can get another quick KO without anything happening. Draudigon is last, and other than being kind of annoying to deal with thanks to Dragon Tail, there's very little he can do to stop us from getting the KO just a few turns later. The final member of the Elite Four is Malva. The fights against Lysander and his 1 fire type were hard enough, so I'm pretty worried about facing off against 4, though we do now have Penny. Malva's lead Pyroar also has Rivalry instead of Unnerve, so we actually have a solid matchup with Walrus. Because Malva likes to use Noble Roar instead of doing damage, our Brick Break doesn't get the KO, but since it does do enough to trigger a heal, Walrus gets the kill at full HP after ripping a close combat. Talonflame comes out second, so I make the switch to Submarine, who moderately shrugs off a Brave Bird. The best Talonflame can do is rip a Flare Blitz before our Rock Tomb takes the KO on what is probably Malva's scariest Pokemon. Torkoal comes in third, so I switch to Walrus on a Stone Edge. We rip a super effective Earthquake as Torkoal retaliates with a Flame Wheel that comes dangerously close to getting the kill. Since it doesn't though, we've managed to snag a deathless victory. Walrus gets his second KO of the fight, leaving Malva down to her final Pokemon Chandelure. So all that's left is to outspeed and rip one last nasty Earthquake for the guaranteed kill.
No. No. Walrus. No.
Man, I thought I had left the misplays behind in attempt 2, but I guess not. As a result of my overconfidence, Walrus was dead, joining my starter and the most innocent of our acolytes in the great beyond. And though Walrus's passing is sad enough on its own, this also means that we're marching into the last fight of the game with an incomplete team, and critically without a specially defensive tank. How many more deaths will snowball from that mistake? There's only one way to find out, and as is channel tradition, we'll be doing so via the ancient art of paper puppets. 6 Pokemon are all that stand between us and victory, so let's see if we've got what it takes. As usual, Diantha leads with Hawlucha, so my best bet is Blackbird, who simply needs to tank a Poison Jab before ripping an Air Slash for an immediate kill. But this brings in Tyrantrum, the deadly dino threatening with a nuclear 150 base power head smash. Without Walrus, our only answer is Rocky, who comes in after Blackbird does a tiny bit of damage with U-turn. Tyrantrum's mighty head smash connects into Rocky, and the devious termite lives with 42 HP. The recoil from Head Smash ensures that Rocky can now get the kill with a super effective Iron Head, baiting in Gudra third. This is all Penny's job, using the same strategy as she did against Noivern to completely neuter the friend-shaped dragon, even with the threat of super effective damage from Muddy Water. After setting up sticky webs to slow down the rest of Diantha's team and firing off rock tombs until Gudra runs out of Muddy Water PP, I finally bring in Submarine and take the kill with an X-Scissor. Aurorus is fourth, and with a Rock Slide, we get a lucky flinch, ensuring that Diantha's Herbivore falls before she can do a damn thing. So her penultimate Pokemon is Gourgeist, who likes to use Trick or Treat before attacking, ensuring that we can come in with Sergeant Pepper and get the KO with just a few poison jabs. So suddenly that leaves Diantha with one last Pokemon, Gardevoir. But even a Mega Evolution can't save her from Sergeant Pepper's final poison jab, which kills the fairy and wins us the battle, at long last proving that bugs are every bit as worth of life and love as any other creature. Somewhere Lucy smiles, knowing that her dream has finally come true. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Or don't, I don't know, but I do know that you should check out boot.dev and use my code FLAGONHG to get 25% off your entire first year. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke.
Well, that's it for Flygon HD mono bud type video. I'll leave the video in link in the description below. Make sure you also go to his channel, subscribe to him. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.